adjust it for whatever you need. One of the things that I want to start out with is I am by far not knocking on any indices. I'm not saying to not do something you're super passionate about. I'm not trying to say to not go into certain areas. I just noticed in the last few years in certain jobs, there's a bottleneck going on. And there's a lot of us that are applying for the same things and we're competing. And there's a lot of areas where they're struggling to get people to be a part of it. So I'm just here to give different perspectives. I also want y'all to know I am not an expert in resumes and resume creations or some other tools. These are things that I've learned over my years, things that I've gotten feedback on, things that I've participated, looked up, and as a hiring manager, things that I look for when I'm looking to get new employees or promote employees, things like that. Okay? So these are, again, just to broaden perspectives, open up viewpoints, things such as that. So some of our goals today that I'm looking to help you all with is to learn about diverse different opportunities beyond traditional parks and museums, discover how to market interpretive skills or any skills for that matter that you have for employers, and identify ways to grow professionally through marketing yourself, networking, and professional development. So, I want to start out here, get you guys moving a little bit, get the blood flowing, the brain thinking. Who's all here with me today? So first up, we have Park Services, state, federal, or national, whatever you might be adjacent to. Is anybody here want to raise their hand, stand up, that works in or around Park Services? Awesome. All right, cool. Quite a few of you. I'm so thankful to have you all here. And what about museums, aquariums, zoos, and historical sites? Raise your hand, stand up. All right. Wide variety, I like it. What about nonprofit, profit sector? Yeah, a couple of you, great. And then this next one might be a little difficult, but if you're free to share, I'll kind of lump it so that maybe everybody doesn't know exactly, but what about you, those that are in an interpretive field I haven't mentioned, or if you're looking for a new job, new career path, or studying something different? University. University? Awesome.
Tourism, private.
Private tourism, awesome. What company?
Pink Jeep Tours.
Pink Jeep Tours, wonderful. Are you out of Gatlinburg, Sedona? Sedona, Las Vegas. Awesome. I've been out there.
Yes, in Vegas.
Yay, Vegas.
Somebody got me back to university, free service, students here.
Wonderful.
Transportation too.
Yeah, great, awesome.
I'm just starting to reach out to Parks and Rec in my town.
Starting to reach out to Parks and Recs.
I'm Parks and Rec.
Parks
Well,
and Rec.
not in your town.
Awesome, great, wide variety of people, right? So again, this is going to go across a lot of indices. I also want to note too, I know that a lot of us have been pretty cold this week in some of these conference rooms. Feel free to stand up, move around, go get water. It's around the corner, bathrooms. Come and go with whatever feels comfortable for you. I'm pretty chill and pretty relaxed, so I want you guys all to be comfortable. Great, so again, we have a wide variety of people here today. So a little bit about me and why I'm here and what I do. So my name is Corian Yandel. I will give a gold star to anybody who understands where my name came from. My first one. It's okay, no? What? No one ever wants to say it out loud. Yes, I was named after a countertop material. I'm not as great as granite, but I'm not as cheap as Formica. Wonderful. I work for a private concessionaire called Avenger. We have permits for the Forest Service in the Ocala National Forest in North Central Florida and the Pisgah National Forest in Western North Carolina. And I oversee a wide variety, like everybody I've met over the last couple of weeks that have a lot of hats. I personally oversee our interpretation and education programs. Technology is not my strong. For most of us, we enjoy being outside, and technology is not a strong suit, so please give me some grace. But I also, our education programs and outreach, our paddlecraft rentals in Ocala. I oversee our responsible retail for both locations. applications, and then any networking with Forest Service stakeholders for Pisgah and Ocala. So I might be reaching out to tourism and county boards. I might be DOT, depending on what they're doing with traffic signs and walkways. Might be volunteers, nonprofits. Could be other outfitter guys that are working within those areas. You name it. I'm just trying to help make a collective for us all to talk and make sure we're all seeing kind of the same vision and progressing in the same direction for those. Okay. So, a lot of people, when we look at different jobs in the outdoor industry and interpretive jobs, for me personally, I grew up in the Chicago, Milwaukee metro of death. Anybody from there? Yeah. There's parks and stuff, but like career day, did you ever have a park ranger come to your career day?
No, I mean, until recently, until I did a new particular.
Yeah, exactly. It's very much architecture, engineering, blue collar jobs, things like that. So I didn't even know about the outdoor rec industry and things I could be doing in it until I was much, much older and started traveling on my own. So for me personally, these are some of the places that I think about when you start thinking about interpretive and programs, schools and parks, nonprofits, things like that. Again, I'm not knocking on anybody. I did not get a 4-year degree. I have a very useless 2-year degree that does not translate well into the outdoor industry other than the fact that I could go to school for 2 years and get a degree and a piece of paper. And so oftentimes I find myself not able to get into certain areas that I would want to unless I go back to school and get a degree. So again, great areas, but something that I think a lot of people are always, there's a lot of people trying to get into those positions. And so there's a little bit of a bottleneck going on, okay? So when we are thinking about these jobs, whether you've been in it for a while, but you remember trying to get into it, or you are trying to get in it now, or you've got friends or colleagues that are trying to shift and move around, there's a lot of obstacles that we all face, right? And we're gonna talk a little bit about those obstacles. So, still learning buttons too. So for us, some of the roadblocks that we face when doing it is competition. Who here feels like it's very competitive to try and get into those fields? Yeah, like I said, I think that a lot of people are applying for the same thing and it's very difficult to stand out. I have a funny story. When I applied for this company that I currently work for in the fall of 2023, got hired right in January of 24, but I had applied for a multitude of jobs. I was doing seasonal work at the time, I was moving around, so you stress a lot about that next thing, and I had a gap in my employment, I hadn't found a winter job, so I was applying for tons of things, and I got an offer for this job and I accepted it and moved to Florida, and then I got one of those emails. We all know that email. Great application, super skillful, we loved everything you had, but sorry, no. We're going with a different direction. I didn't even get an interview. And I think I speak very well. Interview is my strong suit, right? If I can get in front of you, I can sell myself, okay? I didn't get an interview. Now the mistake that happened on that sorry but no email is that we're all human, things happen, barring any issues with transparency. Instead of BCCing, blind copying everybody that got a no, they CC'd everybody. Who wants to take a guess how many people were denied on that email? 80? 100? Over 100? Over 1,000? Not quite that bad. 500 people that had applied for one job that got denied. That's not even the people that got interviews. No wonder I didn't get picked. Now, again, some of us thought that it was, human, they had empathy and compassion for the person who made the mistake. Other people were very frustrated because if you're applying for another job and what if it gets out, now everybody knows that I applied and now my company's mad. And a lot of people did come together and start following each other, and so of course my curiosity got the better of me and I befriended everybody, but I wanted to know what indices they were coming from, what their experience level was. Maybe we were on the same path, am I missing something? Could I be better somewhere else? And there was a wide range. I mean, retired teachers, college students that didn't have much of a history, anything and everything you could think of. that's part of the problem right now, right, is we can apply for a job in the entire world. We no longer have to get in and hand in a resume or ask for an application and speak to someone face to face. And I think often because of everybody who is looking for a job, they will multiple apply. There's websites that you submit your resume and they will apply for all these jobs for you. Yeah? So it becomes this, again, competition to stand out. Okay. The next one in our industry is burnout. I went to an awesome presentation last week in San Diego for burnout. Who here, I very much have experienced burnout. Who here knows about burnout and has experienced it? Yeah, it's tough. It's a lot. And as I've gotten older, I'm an introverted extrovert. No, yes. I used to be very much an extroverted extrovert. But even I get tired, and when you're dealing with a lot of people day in and day out, it can get exhausting, mentally fatiguing. Okay? What about seasonality? Kind of talked about that. Super exciting when you get a new job and you get to move somewhere and you get to do something. But within a month or two, you're already thinking about what's the next season and where am I going to go. And now you can't be present. You can't be in that moment and enjoy that job because you're stressing about the next one. Okay. Also, funding constraints. Come on in, no worries. As a person who works with the Forest Service and the federal government, I'm often dealing with a lot of funding constraints and what people are being moved around or able to do or not able to do. And again, a lot of us, I think, are wearing multiple hats. We're being asked to do a lot so that they can have less employees across, again, all indices. And so funding restraints can be an option. Now, again, back to that competition, instead of 10 jobs that are available, they're only hiring 5 people to do the work of 10. Now, again, that decreases. So 500 people going for 5 spots instead of 10 spots. Okay. And then also just career plateauing. Oftentimes people don't know where else to go after they've gotten something. And I read this great book. Who here loves books? Find me afterwards, we can talk for hours about books. Bless you. Has anybody read Radical Candor? Wonderful, awesome. So Radical Candor, it's a lot of stuff, and it talks about giving good feedback and stuff from employees and upwards. But they talk in that book about rock stars versus superstars. Now your superstars are your people who are your high achievers. They always want to climb the ladder, they want to move forward, they want to know how much they can do, they want that next promotion, they want that next job. And then your rock stars are people who are like, I'm good, right here, I'm solid, I've been doing this job, maybe an interpretive ranger for 10, 20, 30 years, like that gentleman that won that award for being a part of, amazing, right? And we need our rock stars. They are just as vital as our superstars, and oftentimes very much under talked about because we're always talking about progression in our job. But rock stars are who holds the organization or that position solid, so when the new people are coming in, they can pass on all that knowledge. But a lot of us do want to move up, especially when you're young in a career and you want to find out what else is out there. But sometimes some of these areas can plateau and you don't know where to go. Or we're going to talk about later, was in law enforcement for my first career. Yeah, everybody was like, wait, what? You don't give a vibe like that. But when I got in young, right age of 21, all the baby boomers were retiring. So they were hiring 6, 7, 8 people at a time every 6 months, 12 months, and there was a mass hiring to replace all those baby boomers. And then what happens? Everybody's set. Now they're not hiring anybody. Now you've got 1 to 2 years where no one gets hired unless someone left for any reason, or maybe 1 or 2 you're trickling in. And so now, even if you want that, there's no room for you there. It's been filled. Okay? So there's a lot of issues with that. So these are some of the roadblocks I think a lot of us face, which is why I'm going to talk about this and give some other opportunities. So outdoor industry, recreation industry, much bigger than we think about. And I don't think we always think about these different things, right? And we don't think of where our skills could be useful. I often talk with people about concessionaires and being an interpretive outdoor program leader for an adventure. Everybody's like, you're a private registration sites, and we help to fill that gap on some of the information that gets out that maybe the Rangers can't always do a talk. I help train my staff to let them know that they're working at an interpretive host site and what information they can help our visitors with. Okay, so there's a wide range here of different categories we might not be thinking about. You've got your recreation and tourism industry. I read a stat, now I already forgot it, but it was several $billions in recreation and tourism that gets in the outdoors. And you could be guides, outfitters, operators, rental, kayaks, canoes, bikes, concessionaires. We've got media and communication for those who maybe don't want to be directly in front of people. We talk about some things like wildlife photographers, YouTubers, podcasts, magazines, film, crews, maybe your content writers for all of that. We've got our education and our wellness. I also have a fitness background. So school programs, training, facilitators, corporate wellness guides. There's a lot more talk about getting more people outdoors. So you can work in nursing homes, and you can work in boys and girls clubs and things like that, and do these programs to get people in cities, again, Milwaukee, Chicago, Metro Death, get them outdoors and helps with their stress, our anxiety, our anxiousness, depression. And so we're starting to realize that that's a lot more important across all indices. So people are having these little subsets of, hey, how can you help us get people outdoors and talk about nature so that, my employees aren't so stressed out all the time and that they can do their job better. Advocacy and outreach, nonprofits, consultants, citizen science leaders. Again, I think that's a pretty typical one that hopefully we all know about. But design and technology. What about curriculum developers? Interpretive planners? Who here has ever thought about your interpretive skills being useful for apps? Creating apps. One of my favorite apps, I like to do anything that can be very chill. My brain doesn't have to think hard after a long day. And so one of my favorite apps that my brother got me addicted to, and me, him, and my husband have a group chat, and we always see how we can do. So anybody heard of an app called Places? Yeah. So Places is a super short app. You open it up every day, you get 2 prompts. You cannot go back, you can't go forward, you can't do it again. So you're only on it for about 5 to 10 minutes. So it doesn't suck you in forever. The first tab is an outline of a country. And you have 6 guesses to try and figure out what their country is. And it'll kind of tell you how close or how far in what direction you need to go. And then the second tab is a flag. And then you have to figure out what flag it is. And that one only tells you how close or how far you are, it doesn't tell you what direction. Super cool, right? I get to learn. It doesn't necessarily have information about the country or the flag, but it gets me interested, and then I might go do some research and learn about it. And it kind of stimulates my brain without being super crazy. So there's different apps that we can do. If anybody's an app developer, I have a great idea for one. I just don't know how to build it. So, all right. So I want you guys to think about something. Whether you're in it or not, take a minute here, and I want you to either write it down, or I want you to put it in your phone message to yourself. I often text myself, or your notes in your phone. Just take about 30 to 60 seconds. What is your dream job? What is that? What would that be for you? I know a lot of you guys answered my whole question about it. So just spend 30 to 60 seconds writing down, what do you think your dream job is? Awesome, I see some really cool pens going, and everybody typing, but for the most part, writing it down. I do a lot of professional, personal growth, and they often ask, like, what's your dream day look like? What do you want to be spending your time on? What's your dream job? So write that down and hold on to it a little bit. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But it's something you should do regularly and keep touching base with yourself. What does this look like? Now that I have more information based on what I've done, where I've been, maybe people I've met, maybe my dream job changes, but right now this is what it looks like. Okay. So how did I get here? I kind of alluded to a few different things that I've done in my career. I went from a deputy, a sheriff deputy, to an outdoor programs leader. And often when I talk about working for, I see some laughs. People are like, how did you get there? What's your degree and what'd you go to school for? And I'm like, I just kind of stumbled on through life and picked up a little bit here and there and did different things. So what I did is, again, I was a sheriff deputy. I got hired in 2008. Did that for several years, worked on patrol, met amazing people, but I did realize very quickly it was just not where I wanted to be. But I learned a lot and grew as a person. And then I left that and became a gym owner. Totally different. Realized that health and wellness was super important. So I opened a gym with my husband. He is the baby face one on your right, and then that's our business partner on the left. We did that in 2015. It's really funny because my husband has now had a beard for about a decade, so he would not recognize himself in this picture. Again, learned a lot of things. We opened a second gym, all this stuff. It was incredible, but I wasn't getting to travel as much as I had hoped, and neither was my husband. So in 2022, we sold our gym, sold everything we owned pretty much. He worked for a software company, and so we could go travel and work remote. And we bought a trailer and headed out on the road, and my first job was out in southern Utah at a private family campground, and it was the nicest, relaxed, non-mentally draining job I had since I was 15. And it was lovely, and I got to reset, and I got to spend a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to do, and being outdoors and being by national parks, national forests, BLM land. It was everything I wanted. I did some backpacking trips throughout my life, and was like, this is it, I want to be outside. So eventually I became a guide in the Great Smoky Mountains with a company called Walk in the Woods, and I got to do that in 2023, and we also were in Pisgah and Big South Fork. I got to take people out backpacking, school groups for the day, just independent groups every day. Got to meet kids and teens and adults and retirees and the gambit of people from all over the world. And I loved talking to everybody. And then eventually, again, that season ended, and I applied for my job and work for an adventure now. And I'm in Ocala and also, like I said, Pisgah National Forest. So kind of just keep moving, and what skills could I take from those previous experiences to what I have now. Okay. One of the coolest things about your dream job, who here thinks their dream job doesn't exist? There's a couple of you, or you're like, if it does, it's very few and far between. My job at an adventure didn't exist until I applied for it. Yeah. I actually applied for a different job. It was a general manager position, and then they saw my resume, they saw some of my credentials, and they're like, hey, we've been having this little nugget, this little thought of something we wanted to do and do better. You want to come on board? We'll create a position for you, and you help us build out our interpretation and education programs. I said, yeah, absolutely. I will also say I got bamboozled. Thought I would get paid to just be in the woods all day. It's a lot more paperwork. But I get to still do a lot of cool stuff. Okay? So even though you think your dream job doesn't exist, or it's very few and far between, don't let it go. Okay? This day and age, we can do just about anything. Another really fun involvement is a woman that I met actually at my CIG course, and we became friends. I met her in person last year at NAI conference. We got to go out to dinner and enjoy ourselves, but she went from a landscape architect and a river restoration designer to an environmental interpretive consultant. It's a lot of words. She's definitely got an amazing background. So again, she was a landscape architect. I believe she was designing parks and waterfront flood plans. I want to say in Houston and Texas area. And then after that, she was a graduate student, and she started working with river restoration designers. She went to Madison, UW-Madison, and worked up in Wisconsin on a couple different things. And she left all of that, went to Spain, she taught English, she developed her Spanish-speaking abilities, and did some few things over there, and then also helped a professor launch an ecotourism hiking business. So she got some experience there. She came back to the States and she created her own company called LV Brown Studio, where she started doing design work and stuff. And then eventually that kind of morphed into really understanding that she loved watershed and different areas where things needed education about why water was so important, mainly out west. And so she moved down to Texas, became an interpretive designer, and she mostly specifically works with different nonprofits to help their content creation around watersheds and water restoration projects. Very nice lady. I think she's got an ad in something here that I'm supposed to go find for her, because she couldn't be here this year. Another wild ride is my brother. He is the coolest person I've ever met. If you guys want to check out his Instagram and website, it's Paul Anderson Photography. My brother went to Florida. He joined the National Guard when he was 18. He became a volunteer firefighter when he moved to Tennessee. He did a bunch of random things. I think he worked at a train yard for a while, being like a mechanic and stuff. Decided he wanted to go back to school, so he went down to St. Thomas, and he went for marine biology. Fell in love. He literally showed up on that island, not knowing a soul or having an apartment. He just knew he got accepted to school. He went down there, he started working through, he worked at a hotel and stuff. He eventually became a charter boat captain, doing tours down in St. John and all over the Virgin Islands, while he was also going to school and finishing up. And he learned a lot of skills then. And he was doing this because originally he thought he wanted to work on a research vessel. And on a research vessel, you need a science degree, you need all these other skills and experience, because you're generally out to sea for 6 or 12 months at a time, and we need people that can do a lot of things. He's a mechanic. I think he has his captain's license up to a ton that he can do. And so while doing all this, he's always had a passion for photography, and he started using his photography skills while he was a charter boat captain to take pictures of the groups that were there, and then he started using his drone footage and all this stuff. And then on his very limited free time during hurricane season, he would fly all over the world and do photography. He went to Borneo, he loves Borneo, to create his own documentary on the proboscis monkeys there. See that a little bit. And eventually he worked, now he works as a wildlife international photography guide. So he worked for Lindblad, and Gio and I worked for a company called Backcountry Journeys. And he takes people all over the world and teaches them about wildlife photography, and does interpretive skills as well. So he is way cooler than me, I promise you. A couple other people that I think do some really cool things in this field is you have Alexis Nicole. I've talked to a few people here. I see some claps. Who here has come across Alexis? She's so addicting. Yes. Her stories of, I love it, because I always tell people, and this is how I remember things outdoor. Can I eat it or will it kill me? So when I came across her Instagram, where she was talking about her game of is it a snack or is it poison? Instantly addicted. She's wonderful. So her social media handles is Black Forager. We also have Redwoods Rising. I don't know this gentleman's name, but he's also super addicted. His social media, they talk about forest ecology out in the redwoods, fire restoration, or forest restoration, and what they're doing, and he uses interpretive skills to tell really great stories. I don't know if he edits his own videos, but it's awesome. And then we also have Hippie Dippy Danny I came across in the last 2 months. She is mainly Florida focused, and I love it. She talks about Florida ecology and history while she's out paddling and hiking and doing a bunch of other things. And then Allie Ward from Ologies has a podcast. Yeah, I'm so glad that you guys are already on this. I feel like I wish I could give you guys more, but Ologies is also very addictive. I learned it from a group that I was guiding in the Smokies, and I could listen to their podcast, which just brings on different specialists. And they get really, really niche. I found out that dating shipwrecks that are found on the bottom of the ocean floor is actually super hard, because oftentimes the name is gone and things like that, and there's all this other things you can't really figure it out. And so they try to carbon date the wood, but wood for ships might have been harvested at 1 year, but not actually build the ship for several years, and then the ship sails around for several years before it actually sinks. So it's wild. So I could listen to that all the time. I love to download them, and when I'm out hiking and things, or doing something in the backcountry, I'll listen to them. But again, this is, oh, here's my stat. Outdoor recreation economy is valued at over $1 trillion, according to the Outdoors Industry Association. $1 trillion. So again, it's a very wide net where we can still bring our passions, I think, for interpretive and conservancy and everything else to a lot of people. So again, a lot of opportunities. So how do you market your skills? How do you articulate why you rock and you should be hired for this? Right? That's hard. I think the biggest thing is most people are not going to talk themselves up, right? We're a little humble. They just want to be in the woods and enjoy things or outdoors or, talk about school stuff. My boss has an amazing history that it took me over a year to figure out. I knew he was great. I love working for him. But then when other people introduce him and explain his background, I'm like, OMG, you have done a lot. And so we got to learn to start talking ourselves up, and it's okay. So, some different things. I'm going to kind of go through these a little bit. I will have a slide at the end that will have a QR code for all my resources, which will have my slides and some other things for you guys. Okay. So some resume reframing stuff. I think that learning to articulate on paper a little bit better what you can do is important. So a lot of times people will say, I design and deliver educational programs. That's great, but it leaves a lot to the imagination, doesn't it? Yeah. So what if we said, there it is, developed and delivered an eelgrass interpretive program aligned with NAI Certified Interpretive Guide standards, including full research and content creation for Ocala, presenting 3 times a week over 3 months to groups of 5 to 30 people and staff to educate visitors and train staff on local ecology and conservation. Which one sounds better, the first one or the second one? Second one, because it doesn't leave anything to the imagination. You know exactly what I was doing, okay? And then implemented new rental and schedule software for paddlecraft programs, improved visitor flow and customer experience. All I really added to that was that I reduced software costs by $2,400 annually. Because what do private companies want? Or even nonprofit, right? Like, where can you save me money? Okay? Especially if I'm gonna hire you for a job and have to pay your salary or your hourly wage. Okay? Guided visitors on hikes and backpacking trips, super chill. A lot of people do that. I split that up, operated independently when needed, so now you know I can do things on my own. Day hikes for 2 to 6 hours, managing logistics, safety, guests, yada yada. And then also I collaborated, so now you know I'm a team player, with co-guides to deliver multi-day, and then what that is. Because if you say multi-day, some people might think that's just like one overnight. That's much different than going out for 4 days, right? Okay. And so how do you, some other marketing things? I realize I like to talk a lot, so I'm gonna kind of go through these a little bit. But these are some of my past jobs, some of the skills from them, and then how I move them into what I do now. This is a lot for your cover letters and when you're interviewing with people. Talk yourself up. Law enforcement, obviously I dealt with a lot of safety stuff, so I bring a calm authority and adaptability in unpredictable situations. From my gym, I know how to energize a group, build loyal following, and create personal experiences. So there's a lot of things that can happen. But what is one of the biggest things that might stop us from talking ourselves up? I will tell you that right now being in front of y'all is extremely intimidating. I feel really nervous. I have people who have told me great stories of all the wonderful things they've done. So, she's an imposter! I don't belong here. My biggest one is always, I'm too old to be starting this career. Or I don't have a degree, I don't have the background, I don't have the education that other people do. I get really, really scared to be in front of other people and try to talk myself up. And it's natural, we all do it, I'll always do it, I just try to work on it. It's a skill just like everything else, to be confident in yourself. So, imposter syndrome can show up in a lot of different ways. Now that I was a little vulnerable with all of you, who else ever feels imposter syndrome? Yeah. And I bet you that your coworkers and your peers are like, there's no way. They're amazing. They do so much. They have so much that they've contributed. Okay? So imposter syndrome is really hard to get over. So let's talk about some ways, some tools to help with that imposter syndrome. So one of my biggest things that I do is reflections. I set time in my schedule on Fridays to reflect on We often find that a to-do list keeps making us feel inferior because there's always more to do. And we forget about everything we've already done. So I write down everything that I've done for that week. What did I accomplish? Did I start a new program? Did even personal stuff, right? I put money away in a savings account and plan for retirement. That's super important. I'm gonna be in my 40s. I should have done that a while ago. All right, and then do it for work and personal, because sometimes even in my personal life, I don't feel like I'm accomplishing a lot. And then if you're a manager or have a team or anything like that, you're in leadership, you can often, my boss taught me, it's not about what you've accomplished, it's what you've allowed your team to accomplish. So write that stuff down, because you helped provide that for them, right? You gave them that space to be successful. This is super important too whenever you are doing your reviews, especially if you're asking for a raise or a promotion. List out, this is all I've done for you in the last 6, 12 months. This is what I've accomplished. Because even your leadership will forget how important you are sometimes. It's not what have you done for me, it's what have you done for me lately. And they'll forget about that big major project in the beginning of the year that you did. Okay? Ask trusted and respected others. Go to someone that you respect and say, what would you come to me for? What is a skill you think I'm really good at? What would you tell other people that you've learned from me? And find out what other people say about you, and then, okay, how can I articulate that, right? How can I share that? Because we often don't think about ourselves, but we'll think about everybody else and say nice things, okay? And then also, when you are feeling like maybe your skills need a little bit more work, this is something I started doing when I was guiding, imposter syndrome. I'm not from the Smokies. I didn't spend that much time outdoors. I felt very uneducated. So you can divide up your skills, I wouldn't say more than 3, okay? And you're gonna take those 3 areas. Subject knowledge, program development, and public speaking was my biggest ones. Then I pick one of them, and I find a certification, podcast, a book, a class, a mentorship, whatever it is, and improve that skill, and I focus on that skill mainly. And then once that one's accomplished and I feel good, I pick one of the other 2, and then once that one's done, I pick the 3rd one, and now I've just leveled up 3 different skills. And then I start over and I go, okay, which one do I feel is the weakest? And then pick another book, podcast, certification, whatever that feels. So you can start compounding that information and moving on, okay? All right, so ways to grow with your personal development and toolkits to expand your options. Public speaking. Most people think public speaking is what I'm doing right now on this stage, and that's very intimidating for a lot of people. I'll also tell you it's intimidating for me as well. Okay? But public speaking is ordering coffee, doing a job interview, leading a meeting, meeting with your boss to do a review. Anytime that you are engaging with another person, you are doing a form of public speaking. There's Toastmasters I've been a part of since 2018. Please tell me someone here knows about Toastmasters. Oh my God, so many of you, that's exciting. I love it. It's a very safe place to practice your prepared speeches and impromptu questions. Great for interviewing. But there's a lot of other things you can do. Networking and coaching. Again, in this day and age where you can apply for a job anywhere in the world, me and you might know each other from this, and in a year, your company might have a position I'm gonna apply for it. Very unique name. It stands out. That is a benefit I have. And you're like, oh yeah, I met her. Don't necessarily know if she'd be qualified, but let's look into it more because I got good vibes, or we talked about some things, right? And that's just a fact nowadays that sometimes when you just know people, you're gonna have a little bit of a better chance of getting into something. Or maybe you just email, you're like, hey, Corinne, I saw this job. I think it's great for you. Certifications, continued education, invest in yourself. It is important, okay? You can only win when you are doing these things. No one can take this knowledge away from you. Skills development, like we already talked about. And free resources, right? We can't always afford everything, but there's tons of free resources everywhere in the world. In libraries, meetups, the internet, if you are careful with where you're getting that information from and know how to make sure it's proper information. Okay, so there's a large range of where you can continue to improve your toolkit. Okay, here's some resources. Again, this can be in the slide and represent QR code at the end, so don't feel like you need to write it all down. But that's some other different ways that we can go. And So before we move to questions, which I think we have a few minutes, maybe a minute or two, but I'll also be around, I invite you to take 1 minute to write down a skill, contact, or an action that you want to explore after today. It's big or small, whatever your next step is, that goes towards that dream job. What is it? Is it, I need to figure out if this job exists, I'm going to create it, and I'm going to pitch it to a company that might not know they need it, and start my own business, and I'm going to do this job. Two of the coolest jobs I ever heard about in a podcast that are jobs. This woman loved decorating for holidays, specifically Christmas, created a multi-million-dollar job where people pay her to come into their house and decorate their Christmas. Yeah, right? Who would have thought that? And now she's expanded to other holidays and other groups and stuff, and they pay for her salary or her time, and then also either already have all the decorations or give her money to go buy what they want. Super cool. All right, another one was I learned about a professional cuddler. It's a thing. People will pay other people to come spend time with them because in society we're lacking a lot of connection a lot of times. So if you dream it, it either does or will exist because of you. Do not be scared. Do not be intimidated. There are so many opportunities out there for you to do something you love and you enjoy and you want to be a part of. So I invite any questions y'all might have now. All right, no questions.
I have like a general comment. Early in my career, I had a cousin who had his law enforcement, Ellie, like you had. And he really, really encouraged me to do that as a career path into NPS. And he worked for U.S. Fish and Wildlife. And having that Ellie component helps people in their career, advance and have higher levels of GS or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I am such a little, I guess, a snowflakey flower. I would never touch like a gun other than a BB gun, and I could never do that. I don't think I could ever hurt anyone or like wrestle someone down or anything. So I never did it. Do you want to speak for a moment about Ellie and how you didn't really talk about it super a lot in your presentation, but I mean, that is a huge, pathway in this field, and there were people I knew in NPS that they actually had to just carry the gun in their backpack. They didn't have to wear it on their belt. So, I mean, I don't know.
That's a great conversation. So I was in law enforcement for 7 years. I learned a lot. I was on the road that entire time. I got into some specialized divisions. And I do think that it personally helped me with a lot of things. It helped me with understanding that I could make decisions under pressure. It helped me to understand that I have to believe in the choices that I make because there's consequences and there's no one else to make it. I can't be sitting here and be like, I need a supervisor. I worked in the county. My backup was a good 45 minutes lights and sirens away on the day. Okay, so I had to be confident. And I had to also know that if I made a mistake, I wouldn't do it again next time. I would learn, right? I'd be open to that growth and that feedback. I do think that it's a great place to be, but at the same time, I think there's other areas that you could learn a lot of those skills. I think that there's a lot of places if you're not comfortable with some of those other aspects of law enforcement that you could develop a whole bunch of stuff. So, and DNR, I know they still carry a gun, but a little bit different, not as, dealing with as many people in society day to day. So I encourage you to just find whatever works for you and then use those skills and go on. So it could go either way.
With the competitive nature of things, and you mentioned getting a lovely email about your very wonderfully constructed interview or resume that went out to 500 people, so it was not authentic and genuine.
Mm-hmm.
How, when you're applying for hundreds of jobs and either hearing crickets or getting those form responses, how do you know, oh, my resume actually does need improvement versus, oh, it was just a huge field and they barely looked at mine?
It's tough. I think a lot of it, you do have to have belief in yourself and believe that, like, I know that I'm on the right path. I will admit, being at AOR conference last week, I still went and talked to them about my resume and totally changed it up. love where I'm at, I love my boss, but it doesn't mean that I'm not always self-reflecting and making sure that I'm up to date on all this stuff. Again, it still articulates for a raise or a promotion later on. So always career coaching and ask other people. There's a lot of resources. I have them in the research. Oh, this is my LinkedIn and my information. Sorry if anybody wants to follow me on there. And it'll also be in the resource guide that I'll share next. Or this one. Oh, wrong one. This is an additional resource guide. It's got some of the things that I have in it. But there's some outdoor recreation groups, and there's a lot of other things people to go talk to. But I highly encourage, like, again, what was it?
Can you put it in the app?
In the app? I could probably put it in the app, yeah. So I encourage you to go constantly do career development and ask people, because things are changing. Again, I'm not an expert in resume writing, cover letter writing, or anything like that. So go out and explore. There's a lot of free resources